The devil wants you angry because anger clouds vision and kills purpose. Stay focused. Stay fearless. Your battle isn't with people, it's with distraction. Guard your peace. Speak truth. Walk in discipline. Don't react. Rise. Fear loses its grip when you stay locked in on your mission. Peace is your power. Anger is a powerful force. It surges like fire through your body, demanding attention, fueling confrontation, and often leaving destruction in its wake. But while anger can feel like strength, it's often just a clever trap. The devil knows how to wield it masterfully, not as your weapon, but as his. The moment you let anger lead, you're no longer in control. You think you're fighting for justice, truth, or righteousness, but what you're really doing is surrendering your focus to chaos. The enemy doesn't always come with horns and a pitchfork. Sometimes he comes in the form of a trigger, a betrayal, an insult, or a delay. He knows that if he can get you angry, he can get you off track. He can take a seed of offense and grow it into bitterness. He can take a small injustice and turn it into a lifelong grudge. And in that state, you lose the clarity to lead, to love, to hear God clearly, or even to think straight. Because anger isn't your weapon, it's bait. Yes, Scripture says, be angry and do not sin. That means anger itself isn't evil, but how you handle it can open the door to darkness. You weren't created to fight from rage. You were created to fight from truth, with wisdom, clarity, and self-control. The moment anger controls your mouth, your decisions, or your vision, you're no longer advancing. You're imploding. Anger makes you reactive. It drives impulsive words, rushed decisions, and broken relationships. It narrows your world down to you versus them. And in doing so, it blinds you to the bigger picture. You lose sight of the fact that we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but against unseen forces that love to watch you burn bridges in your own house, your team, your calling. The enemy knows you're dangerous when you're focused, so he uses anger to make you distracted. You were made to build, to create, to lead, to serve, but when you're angry, you don't build. You break, you shout, you lash out, and the enemy sits back, smiling, watching you do his work for him. That's why you can't afford to make anger your strategy. It's too unpredictable, too unstable, too easy to manipulate. The moment you believe it's your weapon, you've already handed it to the wrong side. Anger might feel like firepower, but it's the kind that scorches your own hands first. You're called to something higher. You're called to fight with a clear mind and a steady heart. You're called to fight with prayer, with patience, with purpose. And that doesn't mean you're soft. It means you're dangerous in the right way. You become a threat not because you react to every attack, but because you know who you are and you know what the real fight is. The devil wants you angry, but you weren't made to fight his way. Distraction is one of the enemy's most effective strategies. It's subtle, it's constant, and it doesn't always look evil. Sometimes it looks like good things in the wrong season. Sometimes it looks like busyness, comparison, scrolling, or even harmless entertainment. But underneath it all is a strategic attempt to divide your focus, weaken your intention, and steal your purpose. The devil doesn't always try to destroy you by force. He just tries to make you forget what you were created for. Distraction is dangerous because it's deceptive. It doesn't scream like a threat. It whispers like an opportunity. You don't feel attacked, you feel preoccupied, your mind drifts, your time gets stolen in 5-minute doses. You tell yourself you're resting, but your spirit is slowly growing dull. Before you know it, your goals are on pause, your faith is passive, and your purpose is buried under a pile of notifications and endless opinions. That's not a coincidence. That's design. When you're distracted, you're vulnerable. You miss moments, you miss warnings, you miss God's voice. Distraction isn't just about being busy. It's about being spiritually disengaged. You can be in the right place physically, but be absent mentally. And the devil loves that. Because if he can't take you out, he'll settle for taking your attention. If he can't destroy your calling, he'll clutter your path until you forget to walk in it. One of the devil's greatest tactics is to make you focus on what doesn't matter, so you lose sight of what does. He wants you worried about everyone else's highlight reel instead of working on your assignment. He wants you reactive to drama instead of responsive to God's direction. He wants you so consumed with scrolling, debating, chasing, or defending that you stop building, you stop hearing, you stop moving forward. Distraction isn't neutral. It has an agenda. It delays your growth, drains your energy, and distorts your priorities. It might not feel dangerous in the moment, but over time it produces spiritual fatigue and emotional clutter. You find yourself overwhelmed but underproductive, surrounded by noise but starving for clarity. That's how the enemy wins, not with a loud explosion, but with a slow leak. To stay sharp, you have to stay focused. Focus isn't just about productivity, it's about alignment. It's keeping your heart, mind, and spirit locked on what God has called you to do. It's resisting the urge to chase every distraction that demands your attention. It's knowing that just because something is urgent doesn't mean it's important. The enemy's playground is full of bright lights and loud voices, but none of it lasts. None of it satisfies. He wants you there spinning your wheels, drained but going nowhere. Because if he can distract you, he doesn't need to defeat you. You'll do that yourself, quietly, slowly, one compromise at a time. That's why distraction is so deadly. Not because it knocks you out, but because it makes you forget you're even in a fight. Emotions are part of what makes us human. They give us color, depth, and response to the world around us. Joy, sadness, anger, fear, excitement, they all serve a purpose. They alert us to what's happening in our hearts and environments. But they were never meant to be the steering wheel. They're indicators, not dictators. The moment your emotions start making your decisions for you, you stop living by truth and start living by impulse. The devil knows this. That's why he doesn't always attack you with facts. He attacks you with feelings. He makes you feel abandoned even when God is near. He makes you feel like a failure even when you're walking in obedience. He makes you feel small, overlooked, unwanted. And if you start following those feelings as if they were facts, you'll end up miles off course, wondering how you got there. Emotions can be helpful signals. They tell you when something's not right. They reveal pressure points, unhealed wounds, or situations that need attention. But they don't have the full picture. Your emotions are real, but they're not always right. That's why they must be submitted to truth. Just because you feel afraid doesn't mean you're in danger. Just because you feel angry doesn't mean you're justified. Just because you feel stuck doesn't mean God isn't moving. If you let emotions lead, you'll find yourself unstable. 1 minute confident, the next full of doubt. 1 moment hopeful, the next ready to quit. That kind of life is exhausting. It makes you reactive, fragile, and easily manipulated. That's exactly where the enemy wants you. Controlled by your emotions, chasing feelings instead of standing in faith. You were created for more than emotional survival. You were created to move in wisdom, in peace, and in truth, even when your emotions are loud. You can feel the wave without being taken under by it. You can acknowledge fear without being paralyzed by it. You can recognize anger without being ruled by it. Maturity is learning to pause in the space between emotion and action. It's being honest about how you feel without letting those feelings control your voice, your choices, or your direction. It's saying, this is how I feel, but it's not how I will lead. Faith doesn't ignore emotion. It just knows what to do with it. It filters every feeling through the lens of God's word. When emotions scream, faith answers back, not with denial, but with alignment. You start asking, is this feeling leading me closer to who I'm called to be or pulling me away? The more grounded you are in truth, the less power emotions have to shake you. You learn to feel deeply but move wisely. You learn to express without exploding. You learn that emotions are part of the journey, but they don't get to chart the course. The devil hopes you'll be led by every feeling, but when you walk in truth, emotions become what they were always meant to be, a signal, not a master. Fearlessness isn't the absence of fear. It's the presence of clarity. It's not about pretending you're not intimidated, unsure, or out of your depth. It's about being so clear on who you are, who God is, and what you're called to do that fear doesn't get to make the final call. Clarity silences confusion, and confusion is one of fear's favorite weapons. If the enemy can blur your vision, he can shake your confidence. That's why fear doesn't start with a scream. It starts with a whisper. Are you sure? Clarity anchors you. It gives you direction when emotions swirl and distractions scream for your attention. Without clarity, you'll hesitate, second guess, or shrink back from moments meant to grow you. You'll start questioning your worth, your preparation, your purpose. And once fear finds a crack, it floods. Suddenly, you're not just dealing with anxiety about one situation. You're paralyzed in your thinking, your progress, and your faith. Fear is loud, but clarity is louder when it's grounded in truth. Fear doesn't thrive in the presence of truth. It thrives in the absence of it. When you forget who God is, when you lose sight of His promises, fear fills the vacuum. That's why the enemy works overtime to cloud your vision. He wants you focused on your failures, your flaws, your feelings, and your fears. He wants you distracted by what's temporary so you miss what's eternal. But when you have clarity, when you know your assignment, your value, and your authority, you stop flinching at shadows. Clarity gives you courage because it eliminates the guesswork. You don't need to wonder if you're loved, chosen, equipped, or called. You know it. You're not perfect, but you're planted. You may feel the fear, but you don't bow to it. You take the step anyway because your direction is rooted in something deeper than emotion. The truth is, most fear isn't about what's happening, it's about what's unknown. That's why clarity is such a weapon. When your identity is clear, criticism can't derail you. When your mission is clear, failure doesn't define you. When your source is clear, scarcity doesn't scare you. Clarity doesn't remove every obstacle, but it gives you the confidence to face them without backing down. The devil doesn't fear your feelings, he fears your clarity. Because when your mind is focused, your steps get bolder. You stop reacting to every voice and start responding to God's. You move with intent. You speak with purpose. You pray with fire. And that's when fear starts to lose its grip. You don't need to feel brave to be fearless. You need to be clear. Clear on what matters. Clear on who sent you. Clear on what you're fighting for. That kind of clarity produces boldness that can't be faked and won't be shaken. The enemy's goal is to cloud your mind, but once you see clearly, you walk differently, you live louder, you lead stronger, you become a threat to everything trying to hold you back. Peace is not passive. It's not soft, weak, or a luxury for people with an easy life. Peace is a weapon. It is your anchor, your shield, your position of strength. And in a world full of noise, conflict, and constant pressure, guarding your peace is not optional, it's essential. Because the moment your peace is compromised, your clarity, your confidence, and your connection to God begin to suffer. That's why the enemy wants your peace. Not because it's fragile, but because it's powerful. Peace doesn't mean nothing is happening around you. It means nothing is breaking inside you. It's the unshakable calm that comes from knowing who you are and who holds your future. But here's the truth. Peace doesn't just happen. You have to protect it. You have to build a fortress around it, because the enemy will send everything from petty drama to deep discouragement to try and sneak through the cracks. He knows that once your peace is gone, your reactions get louder than your faith, your emotions get heavier than your convictions, and your decisions start coming from stress instead of strength. People will try to pull you into battles you were never meant to fight. Life will throw disappointments, delays, and distractions your way, and every single one of them will try to rob you of your stillness. But peace isn't the absence of problems. It's the presence of perspective. It's choosing to stand still when everything around you is shaking. It's choosing to breathe, to trust, and to respond with wisdom instead of reacting with worry. You can't afford to treat your peace like it's common, it's holy ground. It's the place where God speaks. It's the atmosphere where discernment flows and decisions are made from strength, not panic. That's why you have to guard it with intention, set boundaries, say no when you need to, disconnect from toxic voices, turn off the noise, get still, get quiet, remind your soul who's in control. Peace doesn't come from having all the answers. It comes from trusting the one who does. When your peace is protected, your focus sharpens, your courage grows, your mind clears. You're not tossed around by every crisis or provoked by every offense. You become consistent, steady, rooted. That kind of presence intimidates the enemy because it shows you're not easily moved. The devil doesn't have to destroy your life if he can just disturb your peace. He'll stir up chaos around you, hoping to create chaos in you. But you don't have to let it in. You are allowed to pause. You are allowed to protect your atmosphere. You are allowed to walk away from conflict that serves no purpose. Not everything deserves your energy. Not every invitation to argue is worth accepting. You have too much on the line. Guard your peace like your life depends on it because your purpose does. It's not selfish, it's strategic. Peace is where power lives, and once you realize that, you'll stop treating it like a suggestion and start defending it like a fortress. Anger feels powerful in the moment. It surges through your body like fuel, making you feel alive, charged, ready to act, but it's deceptive. What looks like power is actually a drain. Anger takes more than it gives. It might ignite a fire, but it rarely builds anything lasting. Instead, it burns time, energy, relationships, and perspective. Anger leaves you exhausted, not elevated. It pulls you into arguments that don't matter, keeps you rehearsing offenses, and blinds you to what you're supposed to be doing. It may feel justified, but it rarely produces fruit. That's exactly why the enemy loves it. He doesn't need you to be defeated, just distracted and drained. And anger is the perfect tool. It consumes your mental energy, hijacks your emotional bandwidth, and disrupts your spiritual rhythm. It keeps you stuck in cycles of frustration and reaction instead of purpose and progress. The more you feed it, the more it feeds on you. You're left tired, bitter, and off course, wondering why you feel so empty after a fight you thought would bring closure. On the other hand, focus is what actually fuels you. It channels your energy towards something meaningful. It doesn't drain you, it strengthens you. Focus helps you stay grounded in your purpose and anchored in your priorities. While anger scatters your thoughts and divides your energy, focus pulls everything together. It makes your actions intentional and your steps productive. You don't waste time proving yourself to people who don't matter or explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. Focus is clarity in motion. It gives you the power to choose your battles, protect your peace, and stay aligned with your mission. When you're focused, you stop reacting to every provocation. You understand that not every insult requires a comeback. Not every offense deserves a response. Some things are just noise trying to pull you out of position. Focus teaches you to let it go, not because you're weak, but because you're too strong to waste time. There's a reason why angry people often feel tired, unmotivated, or stuck. They've handed over their strength to things they can't control. But focused people feel empowered. Not because life is easy, but because their direction is clear. They know where they're going and they don't let anger drive the car. That's not avoidance, it's maturity, it's wisdom, it's spiritual strategy. You have to decide what you want more, the temporary release of anger or the long-term reward of progress. You can't have both. You can either be fueled by frustration or driven by focus. One will wear you out, the other will lift you up. The enemy hopes you'll pick anger. It's noisy, satisfying, and fast, but it's also short-lived. Focus may be quieter, but it's steady. It builds, it sustains, it multiplies your efforts instead of draining them. When you choose focus over fury, you win battles without ever lifting your voice. You grow, you rise, and you stay in alignment with the assignment God placed on your life. We waste too much energy fighting the wrong enemy. We argue with people, resent situations, blame ourselves, and lash out at anything that makes us feel blocked, overlooked, or betrayed. But the real battle is rarely what's in front of you. It's what's behind it. The enemy isn't your boss, your spouse, your coworker, or your critic. The real enemy operates in shadows, using people, circumstances, and emotions as tools to pull you off course. And if you don't recognize that, you'll keep swinging in the dark, wondering why nothing is changing. The devil is strategic. He doesn't need to attack you head on if he can just get you to fight each other. He wins when he gets you to turn your strength inward using it against the very people you're called to love and the very mission you're called to protect. He doesn't need to destroy your relationships if he can just plant seeds of pride, jealousy, and offense. He doesn't need to shut doors if he can distract you from walking through them. He doesn't need to defeat you if he can just keep you busy fighting battles that don't matter. That's why clarity is crucial. You have to step back and ask, what am I really fighting here? Is it truly the person in front of me, or is it fear, insecurity, spiritual attack, or unhealed wounds being triggered? Most of the time, we're reacting to surface symptoms while the deeper issue remains untouched. And as long as that happens, the enemy stays comfortable because the real stronghold remains protected. Scripture tells us we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities. That means our fight is spiritual first, and if it's spiritual, our weapons need to be spiritual too. Prayer, truth, humility, discernment, and faith. You can't defeat a spiritual enemy with emotional reactions. You need wisdom. You need perspective. You need discipline to pause and see through the noise. Fighting the right enemy means letting go of the need to always be right. It means resisting the urge to clap back, retaliate, or explain yourself when God is calling you to rise above it. It means not taking the bait every time someone pushes your buttons. Some battles look like they're about respect, control, or fairness, but they're actually about stealing your focus and draining your strength. And when you recognize that, you fight differently. You stop trying to win arguments and start winning territory in your spirit. The enemy fears a focused, clear-minded believer who knows who the real fight is with. Because once you stop wasting energy on distractions, your strength multiplies. Your vision sharpens, your authority increases. You move with purpose instead of emotion. And suddenly the things that used to derail you don't even shake you. You become unbothered. Not because you don't care, but because you've matured. You've learned that not every fight is yours, and not every opponent is the enemy. Some are just tools trying to pull you out of alignment. Stay sharp, fight smart, fight the right enemy. Bold faith is not reckless or impulsive. It's not about jumping into situations blindly or acting on fleeting feelings. True boldness comes from discipline, a steady, deliberate commitment to walk in faith even when the path is unclear or the enemy's threats sound loud. Discipline is the backbone of bold faith. Without it, courage becomes chaotic and faith becomes fragile. Faith requires discipline because the spiritual journey isn't easy. There will be moments of doubt, moments when circumstances scream, give up, when your emotions whisper, you're not enough. In those moments, discipline keeps you grounded. It trains you to keep moving forward, to keep believing, even when you don't feel it. Discipline helps you develop spiritual muscle, the ability to hold your position and stand firm through storms. Bold faith is a choice. It's waking up each day and deciding to trust God's promises more than your fears. It's choosing to pray, to study, to prepare, even when distractions call louder. This kind of faith doesn't happen by accident. It's cultivated through daily habits, reading the Word, praying with intention, surrounding yourself with community that challenges and encourages you, and saying no to things that pull you off course. The enemy loves to attack your discipline because he knows that without it, your faith is vulnerable. When you skip prayer, neglect your spiritual growth, or let discouragement win, your boldness fades. You start to settle for comfort zones instead of stretching into calling zones. You become reactive instead of proactive. You let fear make decisions you should be making in faith. Discipline also means humility, recognizing that you don't have all the answers, but trusting God enough to keep moving anyway. It means submitting your will daily, even when it's hard, even when pride wants to take control. Bold faith isn't about arrogance. It's about persistence and surrender working together. When discipline shapes your faith, you don't just survive challenges, you thrive in them. You don't just hope for breakthrough, you prepare for it. You don't just speak words of faith, you live them out with consistent action. This kind of faith shakes mountains because it's rooted in commitment, not convenience. Many give up on bold faith because they mistake emotion for conviction. They expect to always feel courageous or inspired, but faith anchored in discipline keeps you standing even when feelings falter. It reminds you that your power doesn't come from your circumstances or your emotions, but from the one who never changes. The result of disciplined faith is a life marked by boldness that commands respect, not because it's loud, but because it's unshakable. It's a faith that looks fear in the face and says, I may be afraid, but I will still move forward. It's a faith that inspires others to stand firm because they see that true courage isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to act despite it. Bold faith requires discipline. It's the quiet work behind the scenes, the daily choices that build strength and character. It's what turns dreams into reality and calls into destiny. Without discipline, bold faith is just wishful thinking. But with it, faith becomes a force that cannot be stopped. In every moment of challenge and chaos, remember this: the devil wants you angry, distracted, fearful, and unsettled. But you were made for something greater. By guarding your peace, focusing your energy, fighting the right battles, and walking with disciplined, fearless faith, you reclaim your power and purpose. Stay clear, stay calm, and stay courageous. Because your victory begins the moment you refuse to be moved by anything less than truth.